What are the bookies' predictions and early favourites for the 24-25 Premier League season? Hello guys, I hope you are well. Welcome back to yet another video. Today, as I say, we're taking an early look at the favourites and the bookies' predictions for the upcoming Premier League season. Do be sure, as always, to share your own predictions down below. And I must emphasise, this is not my predictions. If you're not happy with it, that's fine. Just don't have a go at me down in the comments. I'm just showing you the bookies' predictions. If you agree or disagree, let me know down in the comments. Make sure to drop a like on this video as well. We'll go for 2,100 on this one, and make sure to subscribe as well. Let's see if we can get to 70k in June. With all of that said, let's have a look at the predictions. So then, as you can see, we are looking at this through a tier list. Top 4, top 8, mid-table, surviving, and the bottom 3. Now, myself and Sophie have already done our early predictions, if you want to have a look at those. And I was actually going to have a look at the bookies' early predictions last week, but then we had the problems with YouTube, which have now been solved, thankfully. Let's have a look at the bookies' predictions, starting from the top to the bottom. And the team they have to win the Premier League in first place, of course, it is Manchester City. Is there any great surprise? No, not really. What I did find quite interesting when I was looking at the predictions here from the bookies is that Manchester City are the favourites to win the league ahead of Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, but they're also more likely to be relegated than Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United. And you would imagine that is because of the lingering 115 charges. From what I am aware, I don't think it will come into play next season. I think I read something saying the autumn of 2025 is when this could get resolved, which would be after the 24-25 season. So I actually agree, if Manchester City have a season without any financial punishments, they've got to be the favourites to win the league. Them or Arsenal, to be fair. It'll be interesting to see what business they do. In second place, the bookies have gone with Arsenal, the team that have finished second for the last couple of seasons. The bookies think they will be there again. They've just announced their retained list at the time of recording this, so it'll be interesting to see who they now start bringing through the door. Have they freed up some options? I think Arsenal are going to be there or thereabouts, so if I was to give my opinion, I do agree with the bookmakers having Arsenal and Man City as the top two. In third place, the bookies have gone with Liverpool. Liverpool might be a little bit of a wild card, a little bit of a difficult one to predict this season because of the change in management. As we've said before, it is going to be a big change, but that's not to say that it can't work. I wish Arne Slot all the best, and the bookies have put them for a third place finish next season. I'm really excited to see what business Arne Slot does. I've seen them been linked with quite a few different players. Somerville from Leeds United, Murillo from Nottingham Forest. Liverpool are a massive club, so they're going to be linked with almost every player this summer transfer window. But once the deals have gone through, then maybe we can have another look at this and see if the bookies have changed their mind. And wrapping up the top 4, in fourth place, the bookies have gone with Chelsea, which is actually similar to the predictions myself and Sophie did only last week. So they have Chelsea to finish in fourth place. The latest news at Chelsea is, of course, that Enzo Maresca has now been confirmed as the new manager. My opinion on it, I thought he did a good job at Leicester City last season. That's not to say he's perfect though. Although they did get 97 points, they were the favourites to win the league. So it's difficult in those kind of positions where you're expected to do so well. So when you do go on to do so well, people will be like, well, we expected it from you. There were certainly some Leicester City fans that were not the biggest fans, but I liked the style of play on the whole, you know, quite exciting. And if he can bring in quite a few different goal scorers to that team, I've seen they've been linked with Ivan Toney. I'm sure they've been linked with quite a few others as well. Then there's a real chance Chelsea blast into the top 4. Cole Palmer, I'm sure, will be crucial again. So the bookies have Chelsea fourth. Moving on to 5th place, the bookies have gone with Newcastle United, who they think will climb the table. And I do agree with this one personally. I see Newcastle improving. It will definitely be a plus that they're not playing in Europe, not so much fatigue maybe not so many injuries as a result, because it really does take it out of you being in the European competitions. They're currently linked with quite a few different players. I believe they're going to be getting Lloyd Kelly from Bournemouth. They're currently also linked with Mamadashvili from Valencia and Mbeumo from Brentford. Really exciting times with Newcastle United. I always think that Eddie Howe does pretty shrewd business, so yeah, there's cause to be optimistic for Newcastle. The bookmakers have in 6th place Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham finished 5th last season. Of course, they will be juggling the Europa League and the Premier League, so the bookies have them to finish roughly where they did last season. At the time of recording this video, they've been linked with so many different players, including Joe Bellingham from Sunderland, Daniel Kelly from Celtic, Solanke, Tony, Callum Hudson-Odoi. I'm sure they're probably not going to bring all of those in, but it's exciting when you see those kind of players being linked with Spurs. In particular, if they were to get a Tony or a Solanke, because you feel like that might fill the void that was left by Harry Kane going. In 7th place, the bookies have gone for a slight improvement from Manchester United, up from 8th to 7th. Manchester United over the last few seasons have been a difficult team to put your finger on. They could finish 2nd or 3rd, they could finish 7th or 8th. The bookies have gone for them to finish in 7th place. There's lots of transfer links at the moment, as you would expect with a big club like Manchester United. Is Bruno Fernandes going to go to Bayern Munich? What about Casemiro to Al Nassr? That's a couple of the links that I've seen. In terms of players coming in, I've seen Neves, Inacio, Somerville, Cunha, and what's also going to happen with Ten Hag and Jadon Sancho. There's almost too much to be going on right now to actually have a clear picture of what Manchester United will look like come August. So I suppose the bookies are trying to play it safe by putting them 7th for now, but I would imagine that could change. In 8th place, the bookies have gone with Aston Villa. I think this is harsh. When I did my early predictions with Sophie the other day, I said that there's potential they could drop 1 or 2 places from 4th down to 5th or 6th because of the fact they'll be juggling the Champions League as well, which, you know, Villa will want to put a lot of energy into. But to say that they'll drop down to 8th does seem very harsh right now from the bookies. So I will defer to the Aston Villa fans for this one. Remember, this is not my prediction, it's the bookies' prediction. Are you surprised they've put you down so far from a 4th place finish last season? In terms of the transfer activity, quite exciting with Aston Villa. Currently seeing links to Ross Barkley, Conor Gallagher, Callum Hudson-Odoi. Could they get any of those players? We will wait and see. But like I say, for Aston Villa to go from 4th to 8th would be quite the drop. Moving into mid-table, they have Brighton in 9th place. Brighton is a difficult one as well because of the managerial situation. So in terms of transfers, I don't suppose we're going to see much until we know who the manager's going to be. In terms of the manager, I've seen loads of different names being bounded about, such as Steve Cooper, all the way up to a return for Graham Potter potentially. So we will wait and see with Brighton, but it is definitely the big talking point. Who's the manager going to be? In 10th place, the bookies have gone with West Ham United right down the middle here. Of course, we know that they have confirmed the new manager to be Lopetegui. And right now, at the time of recording, West Ham are closing in on a £25 million signing, Luis Guilherme, who does look a really interesting player. The other talking point at West Ham is, of course, going to be Lucas Paquetá. What's going to happen there? That would create a problem for West Ham if they can't sell him, of course. So it's a difficult one for the West Ham United fans. I think there is room to be optimistic. I think now that you've got Lopetegui in early, he's going to be able to go out and do the business that he wants. But as West Ham United fans well know, it's never straightforward, is it? In 11th place, the bookies have gone with Crystal Palace. Palace had a fantastic end to last season. If they carry that on into the start of next season, they could be so good. The bookies have put them to finish right in the middle again. Of course, there will always be a lot of interest generated in the likes of Elise and Eze. Even if they could just hang on to one of them and Mateta and maybe a signing on top, they could still be good. But if they lost both Elise and Eze. That would be a massive blow, of course. Palace have still got a good team, whatever happens to those two, but they are really the shining lights. But they seem to be pretty good when it comes to business. Can they sign someone up and coming to maybe be the replacement for those? I believe they've been linked with Somerville from Leeds United, but I think half of the Premier League have. Let's just see what business they do. The bookies have them in the middle. In 12th place, the bookies have gone for AFC Bournemouth. I think it's understandable to think Bournemouth could be just as strong as last season, if not better. Certainly a solid club, run well. Areola did a great job last season, and we've already seen them make some business with Turkish forward Enis Ünal coming through the door for, I think it was 13 million. Will that then mean, though, that there's the possibility that a Dominic Solanke possibly goes out the door? As we said, he's been linked with a couple of the top Premier League clubs because he is a top striker. But if Bournemouth can tie him down for another season, then it gives them all the more chance for a top 10 finish. And as we mentioned earlier as well, it does look like Lloyd Kelly will be going to Newcastle. Yeah, room for optimism. Bournemouth fans, share your thoughts on a mid-table prediction. The final team in this mid-table bracket is Wolverhampton Wanderers. Wolves, of course, have a lot of great players too that will attract a lot of attention in the likes of Cunha and Ait Nouri. Will they bring in any players? I believe they've been linked to Francisco Moura. I'm also seeing a lot of Wolves fans complaining about the season ticket prices for next season, which is understandable, but the prices are probably going up for everyone right now, which I think is a joke, by the way. I am with you on that. Mid-table, is it a safe prediction from the bookies? If you're a Wolves fan, do share your thoughts. Moving on to 14th place then, and the bookies have gone with Fulham. We could say surviving or mid-table. Do you know what? 14th is more like mid-table, so I'm going to put Fulham there actually, because if you finish 14th, you're probably not too concerned about relegation. Fulham, of course, in a safe pair of hands as always with Marco Silva. Quite a few interesting transfer links at the moment. Adebayo possibly going out to Chelsea. At the same time, Fulham are expressing interest in Stuart Armstrong and Emil Smith-Rowe. I think that would be a really decent signing. Put him in the middle of this Fulham team and he could do wonders. So yeah, we will see what goes through. But if you're a Fulham fan, this is pretty similar to where you finished last season. Would you be happy with that? Or do you expect to push on? So then we move on to the bookmakers' final 6 predictions here. 3 of these teams are going down, 3 of them are staying up. Starting with Brentford, the bookies have Brentford to finish in 15th place. Of course, Brentford have been a good team in the Premier League over recent seasons. Last season, maybe not as good as previous seasons, but coming into this season, I think it's going to be crucial to see what happens with Mbeumo and Tony, who right now are being linked with some moves away potentially, which is natural, but it's not to say that they'll definitely go. At the same time though, I'm seeing that Brentford are starting to sniff around a couple of players. I believe they're looking at Van den Berg from Liverpool, so we will see. The bookies have them to finish 1 place higher than last season. Also finishing 1 place higher than last season, the bookies have got Nottingham Forest going from 17th last season to 16th this season, which is a slight improvement and once again is survival, but it just seems that the Nottingham Forest fans can't have a single season where they can just enjoy not being involved in a relegation battle. Of course, the big talking point with Nottingham Forest will be what kind of business are they going to do, because we know that the FFP hangs over them. They've got to be so careful not to be hit by the same stick twice, because if they don't sell a certain amount of players or generate enough money by the 30th of June, then they could be in trouble next season in terms of points deductions. So we might see more outgoings before we see incomings. So right now, bit difficult to put your finger on Forest, but the bookies have them to have a slight improvement. Forest fans, do share your thoughts. Are you feeling optimistic or are you a bit pessimistic? On to the final team surviving, and the bookies have Everton, and this appears to have changed, because when I looked at this last week, the bookies had Everton in the bottom 3. They've now got them just surviving relegation, which comes naturally to the Everton fans over the last couple seasons. But as we said last week, let's not kid ourselves about it. If you added the points back on to Everton that were taken away, they would have been a mid-table team. They had an incredible defensive record, and to me, didn't look like a team that would go down if they had their points added back on for sure. So Maybe some causes to be optimistic, but one of the big talking points with Everton, a bit similar to Forest, will be, do they need to tread carefully financially over the next couple of weeks? Will Mashiri still be there? Because even though I really rate Sean Dyche and the players there, maybe there's just not that stability right now, so we will see if there's a takeover coming through anytime soon. Of course, there'll be players that are linked away, like Brentford as well, but despite all the good and the bad, the bookies have them 17th, so I'm sure that Everton fans won't be too pleased with that, but it is still survival. Everton fans, do share your thoughts. Moving on then to the bookies' bottom three, and it might not come as a massive surprise to see that it's the three teams that came up that are backed to go back down. The bookies always tend to do this. They never really fancy the teams that have come up to stay up. Although, when I did look at this 1 week ago, they did have Southampton above Everton, and since then, a lot of the bookies have changed them back around, so Southampton are back in the bottom three. When I say I'm not surprised that the three newly promoted teams are tipped to go down, that's not because it's my prediction, but it always seems to be the bookies' prediction. They always don't rate the teams that came up. 2 years ago, they backed all three newly promoted teams to go down, and they all stayed up. 1 year ago, they backed all three newly promoted teams to go down, and they did go down. So it can work, it might not work. What you can say though is it is certainly difficult to stay up coming up from the Championship, but I'm surprised they never seem to fancy one team to do it. In 18th place, they have got Southampton. Southampton, of course, the playoff winners from last season. Russell Martin in his first Premier League managerial job. Good luck to him. Let's see how they do. In terms of business, I believe they want to get Flynn Downs back from West Ham United after his loan spell last season. I believe they're also interested in Matt O'Reilly from Celtic. So because their season only ended about a week or two ago, it might take them a little bit longer just to get up to speed with the transfers, but who knows, with them having a new manager this time round, maybe, just maybe, they might surprise a few people. The bookies have got them to finish 18th though. The bookies have also got Ipswich down there in 19th place. Now, when myself and Sophie did our early predictions, we did tip Ipswich to stay up, and it was because it looked likely that McKenna was going to sign a new deal. Since then, he has signed a new deal, which is absolutely huge for Ipswich Town as a club. And I think right now it is the best step in his career. I think, let's see how he does in this first season with Ipswich. The bookies, though, have them to still go down, but maybe, just maybe, that's because they haven't seen enough transfer activity from Ipswich, which is maybe slightly understandable, but it is still very early on. Just yesterday, Ipswich Town announced their retained list, and in terms of the players they're going after, they're linked with Carl Rushworth from Brighton, and I believe they're trying to re-sign Omari Hutchinson, who would be, of course, a fantastic signing. I'd like to see him play a bit more in the Premier League, actually. Let's see how Ipswich get on with their transfers, but right now the bookies have them in the bottom three. And bottom of the table, the bookies have gone with Leicester City. As I said the other day, I don't think they've got the worst team in the division, but right now maybe the worst circumstances, just because of the uncertainty around financial problems and the managerial vacancy. But there's still room to be optimistic. Which manager will they get? I've seen them been linked with Steve Cooper, Carlos Corberán from West Brom. I believe Ruud van Nistelrooy is a name that's popping up as well. So we will see what happens with that, and then we will see what happens with the transfer activity. But of course, as we said, there is a couple underlying financial issues with Leicester City. Can they make some good signings but also hold on to some of their best players from last season? Dewsbury Hall I thought was really good last year. Could he do well in the Premier League next year? We will wait and see. If you're a Leicester fan, do be sure to share your thoughts right now, but the bookies have you in the bottom three. Let me know. So then guys, that wraps up today's video. As I say, just a quick look at the predictions from the bookies for the upcoming season. As I said, this is not my prediction, so don't get too mad at me. Just let me know why you think they might be right or wrong down in the comments. But if you want to support this video, make sure to drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, peace out.